Hello, and welcome to Reality TV News Update, where you'll find the most recent news, entertaining moments, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. There are plenty of well-known names on Survivor 50's roster, but even the current cast thought there were some surprising snubs. When Jeff Probst announced in April 2024 that all of the cast members of Survivor's 50th season would return, he effectively gave every fan permission to begin drafting their ideal lineup for the milestone season. Would New Era face off in Season 50? Legends? Would past winners return? Could it be a sequel to Second Chance? And is Boston Rob really going to return for the record-breaking 6th time? The speculation went wild. By the time the official cast list dropped on May 28, 2025, the reactions were immediate, including from the players themselves. It turns out Survivor contestants have strong opinions too. So just before filming started, The Hollywood Reporter asked each castaway, "Who surprised you isn't here?" Here's what they had to say. Mike White. Somebody who I felt should be here is Richard Hatch. It just feels like with Season 50, you gotta bring back the guy that originally won. Watching him play in this new era and determining what kind of player he would be so much fun. I'm kinda disappointed he's not here. Coach Benjamin Wade. I'm surprised Jonathan Penner isn't here. I thought being a good storyteller, he could be here. They might be able to persuade John Cochran once more. Unfortunately, everyone who was on Winners at War that should be out here showed up so poorly, the game had passed them by at that point. Tyson, Parvati, Boston Rob, Ethan Zone, and Yul Kwan are the individuals I'm referring to. It was heartbreaking to watch each of them leave in that manner. Kendrick, Stephanie LaGrossa. Maybe Carolyn, but I think what Jeff was going for is people who don't really cause any drama. People who just want to be here, who want to play the game, and who don't want it to be all about them. Carolyn was a great new era player. After the Traitors, I believe she started to let it get a little too much in her head and wants to make it about her. She didn't get picked, which surprised me, but if I were Jeff, I'd guess that's why. Emily Flippin. I wish Caleb was here because that's a person I could 100% trust. Jesse is, however, the person I am most surprised to not see here. I'm not a huge Survivor fan, so I've forgotten a lot of players. I move on with my life and have the memory of a goldfish, but that is not to say that there haven't been great players. But I remember Jesse. He's deeply ingrained in my Survivor memory as such a big character and huge player. I can't understand why he wouldn't be here. D. Valadares. I assumed Jesse Lopez would be present. He played hard and told a fantastic story. I live viewed his season. I'm a COVID baby fan, a younger supporter since 2020. In the episode in which he mistreated Cody, I wept. Out here, doing that is extremely difficult. I think it takes a lot more courage to hurt a friend than not to. I really thought he would be in the cast because he was entertaining to watch and a great strategist. Christian Hubicki. Jesse Lopez would be the most surprising omission. Jesse Lopez participated in a game that Survivor adores and ought to adore. It was novel and intriguing. He used the space of possible advantages, not just the ones that are in the game, but what could be in the game to leverage that for more power. I will never forget watching him as Cody's idol. I thought to myself, that guy, he should be back. He would be a nice threat for me to have around to distract the target. Ozzy Lust. Richard Hatch, the first Survivor winner. Having him here would have been cool. There's some other players who would have been great to see, like Parvati. I'm surprised someone like Russell Hantz isn't playing. Charlie Davis. Carolyn I was really surprised at. She, in my opinion, is such an important symbol of the new era. She is a huge character who is fun to watch and has obviously achieved great success on the Traitors. I'm disappointed because I think having her on the beach with us would be insane. Dom Abate. Is Chrissy Hoffbeck? I fully expected that the only person who ever tied the eventual winner would be a lock for Season 50. Savannah Louie. Carolyn and Jerry were the two people whose absence surprised me.
I'm a big fan of both, especially with them both being such strong, confident, unapologetic women who played the game hard and really made a name for themselves. Angelina Keeley. I think the biggest snub, and I call it a snub because I think she deserved to be here, is Carolyn. She was, in my opinion, the most significant personality and character to emerge from the new era, but I'm not sure why this time it didn't work out for her. I would have preferred to see her here. She would have brought something unique to the cast. Rick Devens. T-Bird is the one I most wish was here. She's done so much for Survivor and individually for us survivors. If you've played T-Bird and know her, you'll find that she is the most loving and caring person you've ever met. Davey Rickenbacker is also someone I wish was out here. Also Jerry. You have Colby, but not Jerry? I thought that would be a combo. I would have loved to have sat back at camp and watched that. Quintavious Q. Burdett. I thought Rob Cestarino would be here. For everything he does around the Survivor community, I thought for sure he'd be on 50. I would have assumed Carolyn was in if she hadn't gone online and said she wasn't interested. Shan from 41 was the last person I thought could have or should have been here. Tiffany Irvin. I was almost certain Tony would be here again. Tony is one of the names that comes to mind when you think of people who have changed the way the game of Survivor is played, and I don't know why. Perhaps he received the call but declined it. But I was shocked, especially with new school winners here. Why not pick an old school winner? Aubrey Bracco. I figured Kelly Wentworth and Omar from season 42 might be here. Jenna Lewis Dougherty. Russell Hantz, Johnny Fairplay, or Jerry Mantry. You don't have those big-name villains. I don't see them. Carolyn is another one. Carolyn is beloved by all. She is incredible, but I doubt I would want to play with her. Chaos Carolyn and Chaos Q would have been terrifying opponents. Siri Fields. I expected Ty to be here from Game Changers. Chaos would be such an epic thing, and Shane Powers is the perfect person to bring it to this game. It would completely upend the game. Since Shane is as irrational in real life as he is in the game, bringing him back and giving him a reason to prove it would have raised the stakes a little bit. Jonathan Young. I was hoping that my season's main man, Mike Turner, would be here. I believe Hoboken Mike ought to be here. He's a good friend, a good player, and a good man. Joe Hunter. I thought Boston Rob would be here, despite the rumors that he wouldn't play. Also Jerry and Parvati. I was expecting to see 3 of them. Kyle Frazier. I thought Jerry Mantry was going to be here for sure. I would have loved to see Jerry perform once more. Another person, especially when I learned winners would be in the mix, was Earl. I would have loved to have been out here and seen him play. I loved his game. Jerry, Genevieve Mushaluk. She is a formidable Survivor OG. The show's been on for a long time and you've seen it evolved. I remember watching Survivor when I was younger and there were specific archetypes you could count on each season. What I loved about my season was that I ended up with an edit that felt so true to my experience, including all the nuances. I would love to see some of the players we've seen before in modern Survivor with how fantastic the storytelling is now, and how much they're able to convey those nuances. Camilla Carthegas. I was hoping that Davey Rickenbacker would appear. I really thought he would win his season. When I got the call confirming I was on 50, I started to think about who I'd be excited to see out there. Davey was the first person that came to mind. Rizo Velovich. The one thing that's shocking to me is that seasons 21 to 29 is the only 10-season time period that's not represented in 50. Malcolm comes to mind when I think of that time period. It is shocking that Malcolm is not present. Jerry Mantry is another one. Her not being here is kinda crazy. Dom from Ghost Island is one that, from what I can tell, a lot of people online do not talk about. He has been the closest person who hasn't won Survivor to do so. It baffles me that he hasn't even received a second chance yet. Colby Donaldson. There are numerous game icons who are absent. Since many of them appeared on Winners at War, I can understand why they weren't brought back. There must also be a lot of people who were invited but for whatever reason were unable to attend or chose not to. I just have to focus on the fact that CBS and Survivor, Probst, all the powers that be have their reasons. Whatever it is, I have to think of everyone in this room as a threat and a formidable rival. There's a reason everyone was chosen to be on this beach. I need to figure out why that is and whether or not that person can help
Fans
or harm
immediately
me.
regarded Survivor 50 as a reunion of eras rather than just players when CBS first announced its existence. The weight of 25 years of surprises, idols, betrayals, and confessions over campfires was on the milestone season. However, the anticipation for returning castaways was even more personal. Many of them wanted more than just a win. They wanted to see how they compared to the giants whose games had influenced their own. But a strange realization spread across the sand when the boats arrived at the beach and gave out buffs. Some of the most famous Survivor legends were absent, and the players were aware of it right away. I was looking forward to seeing Parvati get off the boat. A number of castaways acknowledged that the first hour on the beach felt more like a list of expectations than a game. Before leaving, everyone had compiled a mental cast list. During a postseason interview, one player joked, "I genuinely thought Parvati Shallow was going to walk up behind Jeff. I kept looking over people's shoulders and thinking, she's here somewhere, right?" The vast shadow cast by Parvati. For nearly 2 decades, she has represented the gold standard of social manipulation, equal parts charm and strategic precision. Many rivals acknowledged that they had planned their specific strategies for her for weeks. One of the outcasts admitted that they had even practiced speaking in front of a mirror. "I had a whole plan. Don't isolate with her, never talk strategy one-on-one, and don't let her make you feel like her number one. When I arrived, she wasn't there. I was so close to not knowing who to be afraid of." Without Parvati, the social hierarchy became unclear. The players had planned to face a queen, but instead they encountered a battlefield of equals. The hope of Tony Vlachos. Tony Vlachos was the anticipated strategic nightmare, and Parvati was the social fear. A number of contestants admitted that they had the wrong idea that the 2-time winner would win. One contestant stated, "You don't prepare for Survivor 50 without assuming Tony is there. I packed mentally for chaos. I was prepared for everything, including spy bunkers, spy shacks, and nests." Tony's reputation for hyperactive gameplay affected even players who had never met him. According to some, they planned alliances solely on the basis of voting him out first. Another castaway made a joke, "We had imaginary Day 3 conversations about blindsiding Tony before the game even started. When we got to the beach, we realized that we were planning to fight a ghost." Ironically, his absence created a different kind of danger. Without a single obvious target, suspicion spread everywhere. The players began treating one another as if they were potential Tonys, unpredictable geniuses with calm demeanors. The ghost of Boston Rob. Boston Rob Mariano was probably mentioned more than any other name. A number of castaways stated that they believed the story of the season necessitated his presence. "It felt wrong at first," one returning player explained. "Milestone season, famous players, but no Boston Rob? He's practically part of the logo." Rob was more than just a player for rivals of a later era. He was also a metric. Many wanted to test whether modern gameplay could defeat old-school control. One contestant acknowledged that they had trained specifically for him, because if Rob was there, you knew that it would come down to that at some point. "I practiced making fires constantly. I wanted to beat him at his own specialty." Instead, players were forced to face an unexpected reality as a result of the absence. They were no longer chasing legends. They were becoming them. Sandra's missing throne. Sandra Diaz-Twine, on the other hand, was the most shocking absence for many. A castaway said, "The queen not being there was weird. You almost expect someone to whisper, 'Anybody but me,' every all-returnee season." Generations of contestants had been influenced by Sandra's straightforward philosophy of survival over flash. Some players acknowledged that they had centered their entire strategy on hiding behind her threat level. One player stated, "If Sandra is there, she absorbs attention. Without her, you might suddenly be the name that everyone whispers." Her absence changed the pace of the game. The tribe turned inward instead of banding together to fight a well-known champion. Alliances fractured faster because no universal target existed. The effect on mental health. The most surprising thing for contestants was pressure, not disappointment. Many arrived thinking they'd be supporting characters in a season starring legends. Instead, they realized the spotlight had shifted.
One castaway recalled, "There was a moment around day 5 when I thought, the legends we were preparing to face, we're the replacements. Without familiar icons to anchor the narrative, every move felt larger. A single blindside carried the weight of history. In addition to progressing, players were defining the season. The fear changed. Instead of worrying about being outplayed by famous names, they worried about being remembered. A different kind of battle. The absence of major icons unintentionally leveled the field. No predetermined leaders emerged. No one commanded instant loyalty. Relationships built in real time were more important than reputation. The purest strategic setting the players had ever seen, they said. One finalist stated, "No one was playing against past reputations. We were playing against each other, and that was scarier." Everyone had to start from scratch to build their own legend because they didn't have a Parvati to charm, a Tony to outmaneuver, a Sandra to outlast, or a Boston Rob to control. The game was altered as a result. Fans versus reality. While viewers at home constantly debated the missing names online, the Castaways gradually realized something crucial inside the game. Survivor 50 wasn't meant to celebrate the past by repeating it. The intention was to pass the torch. One player put it best, "We showed up expecting to meet our heroes. Instead, we realized the show was asking whether we could become someone else's." By the final tribal council, the feeling was universal. Legends were not absent from the season, rather new ones were made. The new era of legends. In hindsight, many contestants said the missing icons were necessary. Their presence might have overshadowed emerging stories. Without them, new rivalries, friendships, and betrayals had space to breathe. The players stopped asking who wasn't there and started recognizing who was. Because after 50 seasons, Survivor no longer relied on a few well-known people. The game itself had become the legend. And when filming came to an end, the Castaways, who had previously feared facing giants, experienced the realization the most. They would eventually return home and watch the season, but not as heroes waiting fans, but as the heroes someone else would one day hope to face.